Right, legends, boy, have I got a guess for you.
You would arrest it.
My dad was in the
Stop
Met
walking
for
away,
30
please.
years. You'd be
You would
ashamed
arrest it.
of you
You stay there, young man.
Ashamed of
Hey,
you.
you would arrest it.
Please step away from me, all right? I've given you...
Protect our children.
Dale has been standing up for the oppressed right since the beginning of all the medical nonsense and before. Let's go and meet this wonderful geezer. There we go. Dale, how are you, brother?
I'm very well, thank you, mate.
Good. Yes, you're highly regarded, mate, in the freedom circles, freedom movement.
Good evening, sirs, ma'ams, ladies and gentlemen. It's me again, ex-Corporal Vincent. I say ex because I'm a veteran and I'm no longer serving in the military. However, me and a dedicated team of people have come down to another centre. As you can see, have a look inside the centre. It is filled with police guys. Now, the last time that we came to a centre, it was Saturday the 1st of October. There was a lot of fake news.
I had Matt Houston, the Ule, let's just call him the Ules guy, friends, on the other day. He spoke very highly of you. I think you know my Marines buddy, Jamie Michael, as well, don't you?
Oh, you was in the Marines, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do know Jamie, mate. He's a hell of a lad. He's also a very well-known, very well-loved part of the community in the valleys.
Yes, super guy. Friends, if you're wondering who Jamie is, we podcast Jamie the other day. He was a chap that was locked up in prison for a Facebook post, and there was nothing even in the Facebook post that was it wasn't even one of them, like, you know, hang them all out kind of posts. So big love to Jamie. Just before we go on, Dale, I just want to promote one of my best buddies, Scouse Taylor of the RAF 5 Mile of Death video fame. Absolute wonderful bloke. Does a load for veterans, a load for freedom, and he's also one of the most professional soldiers you're ever going to meet for people who are still into all that stuff. And he's organised the Thetford Truth and Freedom Festival. It's on the Friday the 18th to Saturday the 19th of July. It's up in Thetford. You'll have to Google that. It's up Norwich Way. And along with all these wonderful speakers, you got Mr. Vobes there. You got Daddy Dragon, Graham Moore, whole load more people. Neil Peartree from Veterans for Freedom. And there you go. Look, you got my good self. I've been asked to open a festival. So just want to give that a shout out, and I'll see you up there. Yes, Dale, I don't know where to begin, except to say, how did you first become awake to all this nonsense?
Well, believe it or not, I was medically discharged from the army, and the manner that I was thrown out was, honestly, it was like something out of a horror movie. These guys, they ruined my life. So you get like a social worker that was attached to me, but because I was still in the army, I still come under the army bracket, but he's like civilian, like attached. Rocky, oi, sorry guys, you might hear my dogs barking in the background as well. I got loads of dogs running around. So that happened, and ultimately I went back to the army and I went to see my captain and I said, "Sir, this has happened." And he said, "Vince, there's nothing that I can do to help you." And this was the guy that was, looking after me whilst I had PTSD. So I ultimately started, I went online. I seen a documentary whilst I was on Herrick 16, which was my fourth tour. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I walked into one of the boys' rooms and he was sat there with his laptop and he was watching 9/11 being an inside job. And I didn't pull out my notebook and pen and immediately started writing names down of these individuals. I just straight away said to myself, well, that can't be right, because look at all the millions of soldiers They couldn't have bloody tricked us all. So after the social worker in the army done that to me, I ultimately started researching, and the more I'd researched, like for example, I was researching on the opioid wars in the 18th century, and I was I was saying to my father, I was like, Dad, have you seen this? And he was like, yeah, I knew all about that. And ultimately, so I joined the army when I was 16, and I required my parents' signatures. And I said to him immediately, why the hell did you allow me to join, before educating me? So that was, I was medically discharged in December 2020. And, as you know, something happened in December 2020. We've been advised not to say any special words that will get us kicked off of YouTube. So ultimately, I was there, already researching all this, all the crimes and all the lies and all the deceptions, if you like. And when 2020 happened, I was already there. So I just started researching. And ultimately, the digger that the more that I dug, the more horrors that I found. And it wasn't long before I came across Mark Sexton. You're probably aware of Mark, Chris. So I found one of his content. He had a crime reference number. And, it was the democide and the genocide and the misconduct in public office. So immediately, I took this crime reference number down to my local police station. I took to social media to get a witness. Sadie, big love to Sadie. So she was the first person to come down and be a witness for me. And I witnessed firsthand these police officers, absolute shower of shit. So, Chris, you'll be, fully aware if you was a Royal Marine. If you've got a drama on the other side of the battlefield, you get comms with whoever's operating in that AO. It's as simple as that. And I went down to the police station. Okay, get down. Sorry, my dog is, I think my bitch is coming on eat. And my Doberman's trying to hump my sheepdog. So I went down to the police station and I said, look, we've got this crime reference number. We've got all this. And the police officer said, oh, we're not allowed to ring a different police station. And I was like, what are you talking about? Police can't talk to each other. So ultimately, that day, we went down to a centre that was administering, I won't say the magic word, but we went down there. And again, they asked us to stand just outside. We done as we were told. And they immediately slammed the doors shut, locked the doors. The police came. The police wouldn't let us in. The police wouldn't check anything. And ultimately, I believe that started me on my journey fighting this corruption, because I just seen within that first 24 hours of me receiving the crime reference number and the way that the police acted, not competent, unprofessional, complicit, complicit. In our line of work, it's very, very simple. You're either complicit or incompetent. There is no in between. So for these coppers to be that shocking, and ultimately, everywhere I went. So then I started ringing the police. So I was on 101, getting, they'll only give you the name, rank, number kind of thing. So I was taking all these numbers down, and I was getting so far, and they were just putting the phone down on me. And this was happening for, months. So ultimately, it was driving me nuts. I was seeing a lot of, I remember I was seeing a friend up here. He's a head coach, so he helps people that's struggling. And I'm just sat there, giving it to him, belt fed. And he said to me, Vince, you are not going to be right until you speak to this Mark guy. So I reached out to Mark before. Mark, being a busy guy, he didn't get back to me, but I reached out to him for a second time about 9 months after, and he got back to me, and he was willing to have a face-to-face. So I went and had a face-to-face with him somewhere in England, and I told him, I gave him my plan. Ultimately, that's what led to the arrest of the PC 693 on the 4th of the 10th, 2022, and ultimately the closure of the centre that I'm not going to say the name on the 1st of the 10th, 2022. So I went and seen Mark. I give him my plan. Ultimately, he didn't like it because he'd already been closing these centres down. So he said, look, I'm not closing any more centres, Vince. But I said to him, Mark, you may have closed the centre, but I haven't seen that content. So before we launched on that first centre, I'd had a couple of videos go viral on social media. And I said to Mark, it's strange because I can get off a plane in France or I can go to DEFCON 1. You know, I can be the complete other side of the world and people come up to me and be like, I follow you on Snapchat. What's happening, buddy? I said, Mark, that's what we need to happen with these centres. We need a video to really get to the masses. And I explained to him that when we do the video, there's obviously wordings that we're not allowed to say. We've mentioned it this morning. You know, that's why we're doing this and saying, you know, what happened in 2020. So I give him the plan, and straight off the bat, he didn't like it. He said, no, I'm not willing to do that. But after about a 2-week period, I planted the seed. See, we should never underestimate the power of planting seeds. So I planted the seed. 2 weeks later, he rang me up and he said, Vince, I've got a team together. We're going to do it. We're going to do it in Bristol. So that's what happens. We went down to Bristol. We closed it on the 1st. We handed in irrefutable evidence to Inspector Lippiat, crime reference number 5/222-36390 of the Avon and Somerset Constabulary. So they closed it on the 1st. On the 4th, they reopened the centre and they wouldn't give us any explanation. They wouldn't give us an update on the investigation. So I took it upon myself to conduct a citizen's arrest under Section 24 of PACE, Police and Criminal Evidence Act, and I arrested PC of Avon and Somerset Constabulary.
You would arrest it.
My dad was in the
Stop
Met
walking
for
away,
30 years.
please.
You
You would arrest it. You stay there, young man.
Hey,
You would arrest it. Please step away from me, all right? I'm giving you...
Protect our children.
Obviously, that video went viral. And I'll tell you, Chris, it's strange because I've done 14 years in the Royal Welsh Fusiliers. And, you know, anybody that knows me knows I was happy to die on the battlefield as a Royal Welsh Fusilier 7 days a week, 365. Like, I absolutely loved my job. I loved that I was protecting my community, protecting my country. But ultimately, when I found out the truth, it really hurt, you know, and I can kind of, I kind of feel how everybody's feeling at the moment because they've all been duped. You know, the same as I don't know, you know, a lot about your military career and your life, Chris. You may have been duped, you may have not been. My father's been duped, his 2 brothers, my 2 uncles, and they've both got cancer now. You know, the amount of people my age, you know, I'm 36. People my age having bloody hearts, strokes, cars. I had one of my good friends die last week. He dropped in Ponty, and then when they got him back home, he later passed. Yeah. You know, it's a real life horror movie. And in my professional and personal opinion, we are now living through the Nuremberg Mark II, because this is, you know, we've never seen a time quite like this. Having said that, I do believe that the military are, and when we say military, you know, you know from being in the military's absolutely huge. You know, people come up to me all the time and they say, oh, you might know my friend, he's in the army. What regiment? Oh, I don't know. Yeah. Well, you know, that's not a good start because there's so many, you know, millions of people in the military. So when we say the military, I do believe it's like a specials operations, you know, like special forces. I do believe, because if they wasn't in charge, I don't believe that me and you would be doing these podcasts right now. I don't believe I'd be able to challenge all the things that I've been challenging. And we're able to do these podcasts. And it looks like, on a battlefield perspective, it looks like we're winning. And I know a lot of people are struggling to see that. But you've got to take into consideration, people like myself and Chris, these soldiers, some of us have been on the battlefield before. Some of us, this is our job. It's our job to understand atmospherics when we're walking into a small village. Like that's what we've been trained to do. So I appreciate a lot of people are feeling doom and gloom, but I promise you, sirs, ma'ams, there are some serious guys in the military, and they are aware of these crimes. So keep the faith. Keep the faith is what I'm saying, because it does look like, on a battlefield perspective, we are winning. So, yeah, that's a little summary of my story.
Yes, Roger. So, Dale, just, I'm climbing Mount Everest in April. Everything I try and do is highlight the effects of complex PTSD. I'm not talking this PTSD bullshit that all the charities want people to believe in. I'm talking about the fact that guys like me and you, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say we experience some form of childhood trauma. I think after our service, I don't know your story, Dale, but I fell on my ass in spectacular style, massively chronically addicted to drugs, homeless. I was in psychosis on and off for like 7 months. And I'm just mentioning this because I want people to start drawing links between why do people wake up? Why is it some people are just so happy in the Matrix and oblivious?
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to ask you, was I right in that area? Did you have a challenging upbringing? Did you have...
For me personally, and I'm sorry to hear of what you went through, mate, and I'm glad it looks like you're on the mend now. So I'm glad of that, doing podcasts and whatnot.
Okay.
So with me, mate, my biological mother wasn't around, but I was taken on by my grandmother, who is an absolute angel. Rest in peace, Joycey, my baby. She's an absolute, I've never met an individual with a bad word to say about my mother. Up until I was 16, my mother took really, really good care of me, my grandmother. Then I joined the army. I was in theatre at 18 years old. And I got to be honest, I hate, this is not... I had a son, right? And when you're in theatre, you see things and you hear things and, it's a war zone. So it's not pretty. But then when I had my son, I don't know, I guess I was just like, everything was coming back to me about children in theatre, because that was the biggest thing that broke me. I just want to tell all the viewers now, troops, reference you big pharma. I done 2 years with the army taking all their drugs. So, Valium, Veladaxlin, Mirtazapine, all these big pharma drugs. Now, I didn't know about psilocybin until after I left the military. And you can get psilocybin prescribed in the United Kingdom. However, it has to be private. So you can't get it on the NHS. Now, when I have psilocybin, oh my God! For me, it's between that and my animals. It's literally saved my life, because I don't know, Chris. I just no matter what I would do, I just couldn't break free. I just couldn't leave theatre. Like, it would be in my head, and I knew it was in my head because I could be sat on my settee in my house, and I could hear these things happen in my head. But the dogs wouldn't react. I've got fucking 5 dogs. And when the postman opens the gate at the front of my yard, the bloody dogs are going mental. And I could hear these things happening in my head, and I'd be freaked out, but the dogs wouldn't fucking move. Now, I wasn't strong enough to mention this to anybody until about 5 weeks after I started taking microdosing of psilocybin. And it fell out of me in conversation. One of my friends was struggling, and he was telling me what he was struggling with. And I was explaining to him some of my struggles, which are not pleasant. And I said to him, and it just fell out of me a conversation, and I said, Scott, I've never said that out loud. I've never said it to a doctor. I was 2 years in therapy, taking the drugs, doing the treatments. Rocky, hey! Sorry, guys, my fucking dog, he's big horny. So, yeah, I would advise people, you know, if you go to your doctors, it's the same detail with cancer troops, right? So my 2 uncles now, they've both got cancer, okay? They're both up to date. They've both got cancer. I've said to them, when you go to the doctor, ask your doctor, does he understand his endocannabinoid system, which every mammal on planet Earth has, okay? We have CB1 and CB2 receptors in all of our major organs: heart, liver, spleen, brain, eyes. It's everywhere, right? When you sublingually take RSO, which is Rick Simpson oil, okay? When you sublingually take that, all the CB1 and CB2 receptors can speak to each other. And it also eliminates abnormal growth cell, also known as, you guessed it, cancer. So if somebody in your family is sick, okay, and they're sick with cancer, and they just take them, go to the doctors with them, sirs, ma'ams. And when you're sat there with the doctor, write this out, Google it. It won't take you long. Ask them, sir, are you aware of the endocannabinoid system? And I bet you, if you're not private, I bet you your doctor will say, no, I'm not. Now, how can this individual give your family member the best treatment if they're unaware of a part of their fucking body? It's honestly scary. It's the same detail with psilocybin. So Paul Stamos claims if you are taking these 3 things, psilocybin, main, and vitamin C, you are amongst the human beings best using your brain. Now, if you go to the doctor and you say, sir, my father's had a stroke, he's on a cognitive decline, which means, you know, it's like the early stages of Alzheimer's, your doctor won't recommend. It's because they're not trained in nutrition. So I shared a article yesterday, right? It's to do with youngsters in Glastonbury that are unjabbed. They're now a threat to people, to the older generation. Now, if you look in the comments and read the comments, please, sirs, moms, go and check it. My Facebook, Vince7027, it's the top post. You can get a feel for the atmospherics in the comments. There's nobody. Everybody now is off that bandwagon because the majority of us are starting to realize the truth. So, sirs, moms, please don't wait too long to be on the right side of history. Because again, we are winning this as a battlefield perspective. And, you know, people like me and Chris, we just cared about you. That's the reason why we joined the army, or, you know, the whatever branch of government that you do to protect the people. You know, we don't do this. I know some people do it for the money. I had money when I was 16. I didn't need. So please, guys, yes, don't be afraid to go and do the research yourself. Because again, psilocybin, in my opinion, it will help. My father had a stroke, massive cognitive decline. I've advised him, and immediately his first response was, "You're a fucking lunatic." Now, he can't see the difference in himself, but I'm telling you, when he doesn't have them, you can see how much of a cognitive decline he's on. Like all my friends that come and visit, they see my father and they say, "Oh, he's looking well, Vince." And it's now because that he gets prescribed the doses. So again, troops, don't wait too long to be on the right side of history. Health is wealth. And we all need to get there eventually. I know it's a hard time for everybody at the moment. Arguably one of the hardest times there's been in human history for normal day-to-day people living. It's interesting, Chris, you know, we say people think that slavery was abolished, I encourage the viewers, go and watch the film Sound of Freedom. Like, there's never been a better time to own slaves than today. Not 100 years ago or 500 years ago. Today, just because you guys don't see it on the mainstream media, you think it's not happening because it's out of sight, out of mind. I can promise you, sirs, man. Go and watch the film Sound of Freedom. It's based on the guy Tim Ballard. Go and follow Tim Ballard. The work that these guys are doing, right? Tim Ballard is truly one of God's angels.
What's your sort of take on life now? Because one of the things I always highlight to people is, yes, there's a lot of awake people, but they're all awake in the matrix. And I believe we're in a energy, frequency and vibration battle, and the dark entities, you could say, that they understand this very well.
They do. Yes, they do.
I just wonder what your take is on that, Dale.
Well, I mean, I appreciate everybody. You say everybody's waking up, but they're still inside the matrix. And you mentioned, these soldiers that are, Armed Forces Day. Honestly, Armed Forces Day, I logged onto my Facebook and I was sat with somebody and I said, look at this, watch this now. So I seen one pop up, Happy Armed Forces Day. So I know what's coming. I'm scrolling. There's another one. And it breaks my soul because as the Royal Welsh Fusiliers, we've been to theatre and we've lost blokes and we've lost some fucking brilliant blokes. And I think for you, right, not to have, solid C in it, the characteristics of what it is to be a soldier. For you not to digest the affidavit to Dr. Francis Boyle, you are literally in violation of every characteristic. You are in violation of everything, what it means to be a soldier. If you don't have the courage and the discipline and the integrity to read a fucking A4 piece of paper, and every NCO in the British Army can fucking read. Everybody passed the the bar test to get in. Is that what it's called? I forget what it's called. But we've all been to the we've all done these tests. We've all passed them. So we've all proven that we can read and write before we join the military. And some guys are like, yeah, well, and I've had sergeant majors and senior NCOs. They're like, well, it seems a bit far-fetched, Vince. Well, this guy is a professor of international law, and you're a fucking sergeant. You were IC fucking 3 platoon, and this guy's writing the acts and statutes for nuclear, chemical, biological warfare. So, he's a little bit higher than us in the fucking food chain, Sarge. Not to mention, it's not just him. We've got the leading cardiologist of the UK. We've got the leading cardiologist of America, Dr. Peter McCullen, Dr. Asim Malhotra. Go and check their peer-reviewed studies. And then you've got at the end of these peer-reviewed studies, you've got all these medical geniuses that their fathers and grandfathers were bloody doctors. They come from a long heritage of doctors. And you've got these guys at the end saying, oh, Dr. Asim Malhotra's findings, they're 10-10. We haven't got a bad word to say about it. But then I've got sergeants that think he's a clown when you've done a fucking, you're a team medic. You can stop a guy fucking bleeding out if he's been shot. This guy has dedicated his entire fucking life. And honestly, from a professional point of view, everything revolves around the infantry in the army. Fair one. However, the medic is the only guy that I'd fucking tip my hat to on the battlefield because, for you to join the infantry and fight is one thing. But for you to join a profession where you're going to be following these fucking lunatics and patching them up all the way through, that, to me, their job is higher than the infantry, even though, it doesn't work that way. But these guys, you got to take your hat off to the medics. What a horrible job, opening people up and, so Massive shout out and thank you to all these doctors and nurses that are blowing the whistle. And I mean, Chris, I'm sure you're aware, mate, there's so many of them now. There's like, we're never going back to the way things were. So, again, don't wait too long to read the medical literature and get on board with the people on the right side of history, because when I pass, I'm going to make my family proud. It's not going to be my family's name that's tarnished in the history books. It's going to be everybody that's trying their hardest to suppress individuals like me doing my job. And, you know, what is my job? Just to have a healthy, safe community. That's all I want, Chris. You know, I'm not some fucking lunatic. I'm not some terrorist. I don't hate police. I don't hate Freemasons, but that wouldn't be very accurate, because a little bit of me does. But I'm not stupid. I also understand. The Bannerman did a video the other day, and I couldn't believe it. They were recruiting Freemasonry, and they were out there with their bloody Freemason tops on, and the Bannerman was asking them questions, and he was saying, like, is it fair to assume that you were low-level guys, like you're on the third degree? And they're like, yeah, we're all third-degree Masons, and they think that you can only go up to a fourth degree. I'm sure with a little bit of digging that you will find that the Freemasons go all the way up to the 33rd degree. And, you know, the higher that you climb in this organization, whatever you want to call it, the more horrid the acts become. So, you know, for me to say I hate Freemasons is not entirely true, because I understand that there's a lot of conditioned personnel out there. You know, you see the guys, yeah, we do all these things for charity. Well, yes, the Freemasons do things for charity, but the high-ranking Freemasons are also little children. So, you know, it swings and roundabouts, really. But yeah, it's a lot. Guys, I appreciate it's a lot. I done a video the other day, the sergeant from South Wales Police. We're asking him, is he a Freemason? And he's yes sir, no sir. And then as soon as you ask him, he won't answer you. Now, on that same day, I was protesting on that same day, and I've got the content. I've not uploaded it yet. Forgive me, but I'm asking a load of coppers, "Are you a Freemason, ma'am? Are you a Freemason, sir?" And straight away they're like, no, I'm not a Freemason." So to say all coppers are Freemasons or all police officers are garbage is not accurate. Now, the unfortunate thing is, because, in my opinion, soldiers are more professional than the police. Like, I've been on the battlefield before where a boss, he's said to do a tactic, and sometimes a section commander's got to rein that platoon commander in and say, "Sir, you know, what's the rule? No movement without fire. You know, you expect my fucking Delta fire team to get over there without any covering fire? Do you want to maybe reevaluate that, please, sir?" So whereas soldiers have the moral integrity and the courage to pick up somebody that's higher than you in the food chain, I think we lack that with the police, just because they've not had so much operational experience. Like, their operational experience is, you know, walking the streets that we all live in. You know, it can be dangerous, obviously, but it's far more dangerous when you're in a hostile part of the world, fucking zigzagging 7.62. So I think a lot of these coppers, unfortunately, they just totally lack the professionalism to question the chain of command, unfortunately. And I've seen it many times. I'm addressing their fucking their chief inspector. So it's like the highest rank of the corporate operating in the AO. And I've addressed him in front of 30 constables. And I'm saying to all the constables, "Look, your fucking officer doesn't know XYZ." And still, when that officer gives the word of command, the police, unfortunately, they do follow unlawful orders. And I think Yeah, I just love to be in a position, Chris, where I'm able to help these guys. I said it to Sergeant Geraint Rees, right, that day. I said, listen, Sarge, I don't want to upload this video to my internet because I said, it's not making you look bad. It's also making me look bad because you are my police force. And I don't want a shitty police force for my community. I want you to be professional and strong. Every time that we come back from theatre, right, the Royal Welsh Fusiliers, we do like a freedom parade. We've done them in Swansea, Cardiff, Wrexham, Rhyl, Chester, like all the main places. And when we're marching down the street, Chris, right, people will immediately stop what they're doing and come out of the shop where they're dining in or buying or whatever, and they'll drop their bags. And this is, they're clapping us. Welcome on, boys, Royal Welsh Fusiliers. I said to the Sergeant, Geraint Rees, I said, Sarge, that's what I want for you. I said, I want people to clap you when you march down the street. But unfortunately, when you're following blindly unlawful orders and you're not willing to digest the literature that I'm giving you, how do you expect a round of applause? So I was pleading with our sergeant. I said, Sarge, please, let's forget everything that's happened up till this point. I understand everybody makes mistakes. I've been down the range 1,000 times. I've been DS by 1,000 different full screws or different work on points, etc., etc. That's what makes us as professional as possible. So I said, Sarge, let's drop everything. He said, no. He said, no, we won't be doing any of that. So I said, all right, as you wish. I'm now going to upload this video making you look like a cock, making our community look like a cock, because it just gives off, look how shit of a community we are. We've got coppers that can't even digest what's real and what's not on a warrant. You had a warrant, right? We got removed fraudulently from our land. So to summary, I've been protesting the quarry's expansion. On the last day of the quarry expanding, we went up there to challenge them, right? We were up there for 3 days before they called in the reinforcements. Now, this third-party agency that they called in, right, they issued us a warrant wrong. They dropped warrants at our feet because nobody would take the warrant off them. One of the younger members of my community, Kyle, bloody he knows, good job, Kyle, he took a photo of this warrant, okay? And ultimately, this was the reason that this company assaulted my community members. They put hands on us to remove us, right? Now, I've tried to submit this to the sergeant. It's addressed to the wrong place. They've addressed it to a wrong quarry. There's no signature on it. There's nothing. And I'm saying to the sergeant, look, Sarge, this company have clearly used uttering under the Forgeries Act 1913. No, mate, it looks authentic to me. And I'm like, Sergeant, I haven't got a fucking signature on. It's addressed to the wrong place. No, it's authentic to him. So that's the level of, or I say the lack of professionalism that we have in South Wales Police. And it's not just South Wales Police. Because again, when I arrested our corporate, it was in Bristol. I've done protests all over England. It's everywhere. Like the Freemasonry, it runs deep through the police force in the United Kingdom. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know what to suggest. I'm hoping, I don't know whether you're a man of faith, Chris. I know you asked for some bullet points prior to this, and I didn't send them to you. Apologies, mate. But I will tell your viewers, there is a guy called Dr. Stephen Greer, okay? Now, if you go onto my YouTube, which is at Welsh Sheriff, I have on there a video of a captured CE5 event. That's Dr. Stephen Greer has named the event, CE5. If you guys, you have no faith, please somebody explain to me what the hell that I captured in the video. The name of the video is my army number, 25217027. So check Welsh Sheriff, check that video, right? And tell me what the hell, like this thing come to visit me, Chris, right? And it turned the electricity off in my neighborhood. It completely, there was not a street light out. There was not a house lit up here. It completely turned the electric off in my entire neighborhood. And the reason that it done that was because my friend that was with me, right? His initials are CE5. He's Connor Edwards, and he has 4 older brothers and sisters. Connor Edwards the 5th, CE5, right? My friend was connected to this thing. Before this thing came, right, he knew it was coming. Like, he was marching up and down in my house, saying things like, they move so fast. And I was like, Chris, what the bloody hell are you on about, Connor? But yeah, guys, like, keep the faith. I honestly believe that that thing came to visit me because I am going to be in a position of power in my lifetime. I honestly believe that I'm going to be in a position where I can train these police and try to help them identify what's right from wrong. Because at the moment, these police are weak. They are, it's honestly, it's disgusting. I am a father, right? I have a child. I'm not happy with the police force. You know, they're not investigating these gangs. Oh my God. Like, guys, you have to have serious bloody problems to think that what's happening today in our societies is lawful. It is a scary time. But again, I am faithful now, Chris. I do believe in a creator or a higher power or whatever you want to call it. I don't believe in religion. Okay? I believe, Christians and Muslims and Sikhs. I believe these are titles to separate us. I believe you're either spiritual or you're not. That's just my personal intake on it. But whatever you want to call it, this higher power, God, whatever you want to call it, I believe that it come and exposed itself to me because, well, it empowered me like I've never been empowered before in my life. As a matter of fact, after the event, after the CE5 event, we went back into my house and I cried like I've never cried before, Chris. I was uncontrollable for about 15 minutes. It was mental. And my buddy Connor was trying to comfort me and I was just like pushing him away. I was like, whoa, I need a breather because, well, when you have a spiritual awakening like I had like I was on a fast course. But honestly, it's completely changed my life. I now understand non-locality. I now pray every day. I used to be atheist. I used to slag everybody off that was into any sort of religion or praying. Well, as a matter of fact, because I'd been to theatre, I blamed you call it whatever you want, but I blamed it all on religion because I was young and naive and that was just a building block that I could put into my cognitive dissonance and, that makes complete sense now. But now I see it far deeper than that. I mean, I've spoke to my civvy friends, and some of my military guys get it. It's not the complete Royal Welsh that doesn't understand it. Like, a lot of you are starting to digest this, but like, what would you do if a foreign invader, I got to use my words carefully, but we basically just went over there and just started taking over villages. Like, what would you do, Chris? You'd probably do the same detail as what they were bloody doing, So I'm, life is tough. Life, because you've got that then playing on your mind. Like, maybe, should I have done more? Could I have done more? But realistically, I joined the army at 16. I was in theatre at 18. You're still very, very young. Very, very young at 18, you don't know your bloody arse from your elbow at 18. So yeah, hope I haven't waffled too much.
No, mate, I think the audience will find it all fascinating. I just want to pick up on a point is, I think the thing that really motivates people to wake up, I think the driver, it really is is linked to this childhood trauma that I'm saying. I find it interesting that probably the most significant traumatic event you could have as an infant would be losing your mother, and that what am I trying to say? I get this a lot, Dale. I speak to people and I say, and when the childhood thing comes up, especially people around the military, they will start to say what wonderful childhoods they've had. I had a brilliant childhood. And yet when you probe a little bit, you're like, oh, well, your dad, he was your best mate, was he? Oh, no, I never used to see me dad. He was always off in the army, and like I didn't really know who he was, Chris, to be. And I just find it interesting that like these severely traumatizing experiences we have as children, I don't think most people understand them. And what I'm getting at is the two types of character type come out of it. The one is your Freemason type, your order follower. And this is no disrespect to anyone, folks. I don't give a shit. I'm not a Freemason. I'm probably a free person, I suppose you'd say. This is not directed at anyone specifically. I'm just saying that you why is it that you can go up to a sergeant and shake him and go, look, why can't you see what's going on here? And they're just like, literally don't see anything. We saw the same with the events in New York and Washington. And I think this whole thing, the whole thing about spiritual is like everyone's spiritual. It's just most people are never going to realize it, right? Because we're a spiritual being having an human experience.
Certainly are.
And I literally think this whole thing is playing out. It's an energy, vibration, and frequency battle. And the sociopaths think they're winning because they're playing everyone off on trauma that they don't know that they've got, Some people go to the ego. That's your military person. That's your police. They want to prove themselves. That's why they can be capable of horrendous acts, albeit you get medals for horrendous acts, right? And yeah, you just, sorry, mate, I'm just chucking this out there because I want to sort of raise the level of this conversation to get people thinking. Because if there's one thing that the one thing that bugs a spiritual person is, which isn't a lot really, but it's when people focus on the government. The reason we're overrun with immigration is because of Keir Starmer. It's like, no, it's not. It's because you're facing a dark network out there, a cabal that are playing you on your energy. They dividing your communities. They're keeping your morale low. They're keeping your vibration low, knowing that you'll go out and shove fucking pizza down your face and watch Netflix to escape, or go to the booze or the spliff or whatever it is. And yeah, so I think it sounds like you're on the right track, mate, is what I'm trying to get to.
Yes. They do, mate. They do. Do you know, even though I'm broken, man, I'm one of the stronger members of my community, and everybody, they pitch in and ask me for help, and they ask me for, just guidance. And a lot of people, they tell me their dramas, and straight away I say, it sounds like your father or it sounds like your mother had ancestral trauma, because we can't fathom, I'm 36 years old. I have 36 years experience. This has been happening for a long, long, long time. And I think people just can't fathom how evil, this whole system is. And it is, again, I believe, right? I believe that the cabal, deep state, whatever you want to call them, their main aim is to separate you from God.
Yes.
Whatever your idea of God is, or Mother Nature, or they want to separate you from the spirit. Because I'll tell you something, right, troops? 14 years Royal Welsh Fusiliers, right? I was always top third of my platoon, okay? I was a decent soldier. I was a very good soldier. Do you know, after I was exposed to God, or my spirit, or whatever you want to call it, right? That ultimately made me such a superior warrior. Because now, whereas I used to, like before we'd go on operations, some of my guys would, they'd come in and they'd be like, "Oh my God, Vince, I can't believe it's happening." And, they were upset about, just deploying or just about to deploy to a theatre. And I tell them to watch the film 300 and watch King Leonidas's ethos of how he teaches his soldiers, or the ethos behind the Spartans. Whereas if you die on the battlefield, there is no, death isn't glorious. There's no nice way to die. But if you were to die on the battlefield, there is no more of a glorious death that one could ask for, dying, fighting to protect his troops. So that's kind of the ethos that I used to push on to my guys. But I didn't used to believe in heaven. Like, I used to think when I'm dying, all right, it'll look cool on my gravestone, died protecting his people, but I thought I'd just turn into worm food. But now I understand the spirit, and, and now I'm familiar with Dr. Stephen Greer, because he claims that he died when he was a young boy, and he entered this field of consciousness, is what he calls it. Some people know it as heaven. There's a lot of things that we interpret differently. But when you actually listen to the man, that sounds right to me. And I was only aware of Dr. Stephen Greer 2 days before it happened on 9/11/2022. That when the thing that I've told the viewers to go and check on my YouTube, if you have any doubts, if you're not spiritual, please, try and explain what that is to me. And it completely changed my life. So if you haven't found God, I believe you're not paying attention yet. We're all on a different spiritual journey. Again, like I said, my spiritual journey was force-fed to me. It knocked the bloody lights off in my neighborhood. And that's the thing. Loads of people not only remember the night that the lights went off on my mountain, but many people actually seen the orb or the celestial being or whatever you want to bloody call this thing that I captured in the video. Many of my community members seen it. So
what did they think it was?
Mate, honestly, Dr. Stephen Greer claims, right, that these celestial beings have the ability to turn off nuclear bombs. So, for example, in his Close Encounters of a Fifth Kind and his Unacknowledged documentaries, he talks of these celestials, and there are individuals, right, that are trying to set off the nukes, and they get an ND. Oh, it's not an ND, sorry, it's a misfire. Now, I'm sure you're familiar. It never happens on a 5.56 round. When these guys are paying fucking millions of pounds for these bombs, you definitely don't want to misfire. But these guys, right, for example, we have never fired a nuke into space. Now, I'm not sure whether you're aware, Chris, but we've attempted it many, many times. But every single time that we attempt it, it has a misfire. Why? Well, Dr. Stephen Greer claims that these celestial beings are helping us. They're guiding us. And also, the individuals that are pulling the trigger, right, like the soldiers, they claim that when they're pulling the trigger for this nuke, right, they're claiming that they're having this telepathic experience where these celestials are saying to them in their mind, please don't blow up this beautiful planet. Rest assured, if you go to an extinction level event, we can intercept and we can stop. But we'd prefer it if you didn't go there. Now, when you have these stories, right, and you have this thing that come to visit me, and it was strangely enough, we went and closed down these centres that I mentioned earlier, 5-2-2-3-6-3-9-0. The content reached tens of millions of people. And I've already explained to you the importance of planting seeds, okay? I'm a digital farmer. So I was very proud in making this content reach tens of millions of people. We know it reached approximately 30 million on 2 accounts. And in the content itself, I am advising the general public to screen record and upload to your own social media platforms. So, hey, stay down. Sorry, boys and girls. So God knows just how many views this content actually had. But after I done extremely well with this content, then that thing come to visit me. Now, Chris, Dr. Stephen Greer also claims that men are shooting these things out of the sky. Again, I'm not, I say the word conspiracy theorist is, such a word now, isn't it? But basically, I don't give a shit what shape the world is. It can be pear-shaped, round, flat. I don't give a shit. The only thing that I give a shit about is the health and safety of my community. So, yeah, when this literature come to me and I started digesting this, I mean, it blew my mind. And for that thing to come and visit me, Chris, right? One, it's hostile for it to do so, because when these guys come, forgive me, I'm not super clued up on my spirituality fucking literature. But when this thing come to visit me, like on our planet, or when it come into our atmosphere, it was dangerous for that to do so, because humans, we have technologies, and we've done so successfully. Dr. Stephen Greer's opinion, not mine, but we've hit these things out of the sky. So for that thing to come and expose itself to me like it did, honestly, mate, well, like I told you, after the experience, I went in my house, because it happened right outside my front doorstep. I went into my house and I cried like I've never cried before. No, when I lost blokes in theatre, no, when I lost my mother, there's nothing that made me cry as much. So, I mean, I see that as a sign. And it's strange also, because once upon a time in my military career, one of the OCs come up to me, and I was in Tidworth. It was when the 2 regiments amalgamated. It was light roll infantry with armoured infantry. So I went down to give him a year, because I didn't just want to say, no, I'm not doing that, I'm getting out the army. I went down to give, and I hated it. I say hated, it's a strong word. I really didn't like my new job role in the back of a warrior. So I was getting off. I'd signed off, and then ultimately the army found me a better job. I went skydiving for 6 months, and then I became the first junior infantry advisor for the army, which I was very proud of. So the OC came up to me and he said, Vince, you're going to be working at the top corridor one day. And I was like, I'm the bollocks, aren't I? Just giving it the Charlie Big Spuds. And he said, no, Vince, I'm being serious. He said, you are going to run this battalion one day, and I think that you'll be doing damage. You'll be a really good. And I said to him, sir, I've signed off. I'm on my way out. I've been in the army bloody. And he said, no, Vince, I can honestly see you running, working in that top corridor. Now, I don't know why the OC said that to me. Yes, I was a good bloke, but such a descriptive of how I was going to work, up in the Razman's corridor. And then that light come and visit me, and I thought to myself, does this mean that I am going to be, at some point in my life, running the show again. Like, not as a full screw. I don't know. Maybe as a CSM. Maybe as a major. Who knows? And honestly, I don't know. But I'm just trying to put my life together, and I find it so strange how the OC said that to me whilst I was serving, and then this thing come to visit me. Honestly, mate, it was. Do you know? After that thing come to visit me, Chris. Honestly, mate, no joke. For months after that, I would just break down crying. I would have a house full of people. They'd, fucking all in my house, fucking drinking and partying, and I'd just pause the music, and I'd be like, what the fuck? Honestly, mate, it fucking nearly broke me, because my thinking process was, why did you waste a journey coming to see me? Why didn't you just go and see the RSM of the SAS? Somebody in charge of fucking all them squadrons, and they've got all the means and the weapons and the ammo. Like, why would you come and see fucking Vince? That's now a fucking civvy. But too much to talk about on a 1 hour fucking podcast, mate. But yeah, now I honestly believe I'm taking a step back, and I'm trying to, taking everything as a battlefield perspective. And I honestly believe that I am going to be in a position where I can train these police officers and teach them. Listen, champ, this is uttering. This is authentic. If some dickhead uses this one, you arrest him for fraud. If somebody rocks up with this one, they've obviously gone through the correct legal procedure, and you can encourage that good behavior. But I honestly believe it's coming, and, people can say what they want about me. Honestly, I don't give a shit what any of you negative people think of me, sirs, ma'ams. I am just trying to help my community members and ultimately my country the best that I can. And, for me to stop these, when I seen the lack of professionalism in South Wales Police and the police across the UK, I mean, you can't call me a bad guy for that, Chris, no.
Yes. With respect to your Stephen Greers and all that, I just apply a simple formula. Anyone out there, if they're not talking about energy, frequency and vibration, and they're not talking about the dark network, cabal, Babylonian psychopaths, the cult of Saturn, all these euphemisms we've got for the merchant bankers, basically. I don't waste my time there, mate, is all I was going to say. As for the
well, he does. He does speak of the universe and frequency and the cabal. I don't know whether you're familiar with Dr. Stephen Greer, but I believe that he is on point, because like what he's getting at is, these celestials, it's the technology that they have. So they're cutting around the universe with no exhaust. So it's because they're using what's known as zero net energy. And again, I don't want to lose people. There's a lot of different terminologies for zero net. I can only apologize. This subject matter, guys, you should do some reading and come up with, with your own conclusion, because there's so much. I seen it not so long ago. There was, on the exact same day I shared it on my Facebook, Keir Starmer, loved by President Trump, or, words to that effect was the headline. And then in the other bloody article, it said Trump wants rapid regime change in the United Kingdom under Keir Starmer. So you've got two articles, completely separate narratives. One set of facts, two set of narratives. So I would yes, we are living in the age of disinformation, sirs, ma'ams. That's the reason why Chris kindly reminded me before we started this vlog, Vince, please don't use specific words that will get this podcast removed for integrity, which is absolute load of garbage, as I'm sure the majority of your viewers, Chris, are starting to come to terms with. But yes, guys, you have to take it with a pinch of salt because we are currently living in the age of disinformation, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like I'm a former Marine, so I ain't scared of fuck all. I don't.
Good lad.
I couldn't give a shit. All I'd say to people out there is try and understand. Most people get to my work and the good energy that I put out through a certain video platform. And literally, as my friend David Icke found out to his cost, if you talk about certain stuff, you fucking lose your channel overnight. It's just that way. And does that bother me? No, I wouldn't give a shit. I'd wake up the next day, I'd go for a fucking veggie breakfast and I'd laugh my fucking ass off, right? But would that help all the people out there who are battling complex trauma that fucking need a voice of sense to say, oi,
No.
Look at your fucking childhood, be realistic, look at your fucking abusive schooling, look at the music industry, how it abuses you, look at Hollywood, how it manipulates your mind with the fucking hero story all the time. You got to be a fucking hero or you fuck all. You got to be a fucking hero. You know, look at the medical bullshit. Even, you know, the people being heralded in the freedom movement as being the good medics, fucking half of them are still pushing, I'll call it bogeyman theory, right? If you believe in a bogeyman, that there's a bogeyman that can jump from one person into the other, you are utterly deluded and you're living under the codswallop that our parents' generation believed. You know, put a trout under your pillow, it'll cure your fucking, you know, hemorrhoids and all that utter you mention spirit, like the way to the Father, the way to the paradise. It's within, it's through you. It's what you do to yourself, and you have choices. I'm not talking about, you know, some twat poisoning you from an aeroplane or some electromagnetic frequency that isn't good for human. That's a different thing. I'm talking about the bogeyman that they want you to believe in so they can keep pushing their narrative. Half the people in the freedom movement still believe in that. So it's fucking... This is why, bringing it back to what you say, yes, find God, people, because you are him or her. It doesn't matter. It's a masculine and feminine energy. And until you do, you ain't going to get the truth because you only... You know, the way to the truth is through yourself. Dale, listen, I want to keep this fairly short because I want as many people to watch it as possible. And if we go on for too long, they'll be like, oh, I can't watch that shit. It's fucking too... So,
I agree, mate.
Just one last thing. I say to everyone, you know, I was going in supermarkets during that nonsense and the person I was in the car with jump out of the car, start putting their fucking underpants on their face. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? They're like, oh, well, you know, Chris. I don't know. I literally don't fucking know. Enlighten me. Oh, we just got to go. No, you literally don't just have to go. You're a father, right? Well, yeah. So you're literally brought, I'm going to use the word literally, we love it in this family. You literally brought a fucking human being into this planet that you love dearly, that you would not let one single fucking thing happen to, I hope, because that's called being a parent. And yet you're condemning them to a future of slavery because you're too fucking gutless to reject a BBC narrative. That's all it was. It was a BBC.
Yeah.
There was no letter come through your door. No, you know, it was just the dark network or the old cabal telling their media outlets, right, tell them this week and then we'll come up with a cure. And you're going along with it. That person literally looked at me down. They went, yeah, you're right, ain't you? I'll fucking take this thing. And they never wore it again. It was fucking beautiful. It was beautiful to see them turn around in shops when some spotty 16-year-old came up and said, why are you not wearing your mask? And they turned around and said, you know, personally, I don't want to fucking explain to people. I'm 55 years old. I do what the fuck I want so long as I'm not hurting anyone, right? I don't explain myself to fucking brainwash people. But then to see them turn around and say, sorry, I don't do that, it was just fucking golden. So I want to say to you, you've actually been up and made a citizen's arrest when you deemed it was a moral judgment. What is there fear to fear? Or should we just do what's right?
Well, I got to be honest, mate. So all this citizen's arrest was before the CE5 event took place. The day before that, you know, a lot of people are saying I was doing it for views and it's doing it because I'm an egotistical, etc. I phoned my son on the day before the first, before I went to close that centre down, right? And, you know, because he's a smart guy, he just upped the video. So instead of the call, it became like we're doing now, FaceTime. And when I seen his face, mate, and I knew that, because I didn't know, I could have been arrested and thrown in jail for fucking 6 years. Political prisoner, you know, there's many of them. You mentioned Jamie Michaels earlier. So I didn't know what was going to happen to me. So when I seen my son, I started crying, mate. And I did have the fear, okay? But what we need to remember, sirs, ma'ams, is there's no courage without fear, okay? Every soldier, before he does that heroic leap, he is frightened, okay? And that was before I found God. Because when you truly find God, all the fear goes away, because I am ready to meet my maker today, tomorrow, whenever it may be, mate. And I'm happy to do whatever is required of me to better my people's lives. So on closing, to summarize, guys, as Chris has already alluded to, find God. Understand what non-locality means, okay? Watch Dr. Stephen Greer's content, Close Encounters of a Fifth Kind, Unacknowledged, Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. You watch these things and it will give you a better understanding of these ancient fucking things that are, you call them angels, you call them celestials, but they are, without the shadow of a doubt, they're helping us. And I honestly believe, you know what, Trump got clipped in the ear? I believe that was divine intervention. Personally, we're all entitled to it. That's my personal, not my professional opinion. But, you know, find God, troops, and then all this fear nonsense will slowly push away. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. Chris, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Well, mate, you know, I wanted to meet you for a long time because I really appreciate what you was doing back in the day. I knew it took fucking balls, you know.
Thank you, mate.
I think that's the physical, the 3D material realm which we live in. That's one, you know, we got to go out there, not be afraid. We got to take our communities back, community measures, community actions, saying no to fucking corrupt councils and police officers when they do their bullshit, saying no to the big, you know, the big trillion-dollar corporations that want to force their bullshit on you for profit, obviously, right? We got to do all that, but then the ultimate warrior is the one that cracks it spiritually, you know, and looks at life in terms of the energy that we put out. And in order to put that good energy out, you've got to heal your trauma. I'm sorry to keep fucking bringing it back to it, folks, but I'm sorry, as my son would say, sorry, not sorry, because what you've seen during the medical stuff was all these freedom people, and I had an interaction with, you know, lots and lots of them. Some of them were fucking nasty fuckers. They would, you know, they would fucking turn around and hang you, and yet you're trying to do a good thing. And it wasn't that they was like born nasty or anything. It was that they had unhealed trauma, and they was going out on these marches, and they was just projecting it onto innocent civilian. I saw an American family get attacked in London. It was just awful, you know, by these damaged individuals, you know. And if that damaged individual had actually stopped, recognize that they're a traumatized individual, recognize that these little things that we don't think are important when we're kids, but it all adds up. That's what it's called, complex. And then work to heal it, accept the past, take the good from it, forgive the people involved because they just like you, they had a load of shit in their life, you know, learn from it, move forward, bang, then the energy you put out is through the roof, you know. So Dale, thank you for letting me, you know, add these little contributions. I just think together with your guys, my guys and girls, like
Of course, mate.
we can do a
far more effective when we're together, mate. Far more effective.
And that was the other thing during all the medical stuff. The division was huge. This person's not talking to this person. This person's calling this person controlled opposition.
It's not natural for us to not have fucking human contact with other individuals, mate.
Yeah.
It's not natural.
Exactly.
I'd advise getting Steve Forsyth on the show, mate. I'll introduce you. Get him on, mate, because he's clued up with the spirituality, warfare kind of stuff. He'd be a great guy to have on the podcast.
Yeah, Steve's a former Marine. He's an old mate of mine.
Certainly is.
Yeah, he's been really, you know, hitting it hard for the freedom movement for the last 3 years. I think he's been on the show probably a couple of times, but we can always
fair one.
Always get him back on. So friends at home, if you can like and subscribe, that'd be mental. And just remember, I couldn't do this channel if it wasn't for the YouTube members or the Patreons, or some people support us on Locals, although Locals is technically a free platform. So massive love to you guys that support me. Dale, stay on the line so we can thank you properly, brother. But massive love to everyone. Go steady. See you all soon.